are thrilled that Charles Clateman is here, our first Kapnick Fellow. The Kapnick Fellowship, just a little bit about it. I'm going to say a few words, and then Jesse's going to introduce Charlie. Hello. So this is the first time we've been able to fund a fellowship. It is to bring an emerging writer to Grounds each year. The applicants have to have completed their MFA or PhD within the last 5 years, and there's no book requirements. So the idea behind the fellowship is to support an emerging writer to finish a book or make progress while they are here. They also will teach 3 classes, 1 in the fall and 2 in the spring, one of which is of their own design, and let's see what it is in the spring. And I just want to say how grateful we are to the Kapnick Foundation, which has made this and several other things, including the writer who will be coming in the spring, Helen DeWitt, possible by their generosity. We had 133 applicants this year for 1 position, both in poetry and prose, and Charlie was unanimously selected by the committee. Jesse was on the committee, and he is going to come and say a few words about Charlie's work. Can you silence your mobile phones, please? And thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to start with a sketch that we wrote, the committee, in support of Charlie's election as Kapnick Fellow. Charles Clateman is a novelist of great promise and our first Kapnick Fellow. He holds an MFA from Brown and a BA in Classics and Written Arts from Bard College. His is a work of voices that contest, that battle in their becoming and then speak joyfully, that sometimes dissemble. It is existential work, dark, at times humorous, playful, and sharply attentive. He is as likely to draw from Bernhard as from Ashbery, from Shakespeare as from Gogol. So that's what we wrote. Now, I've read 2 of Charlie's novels, one, Ridiculous Devotions, which is a Bernhard-esque laser beam, and The Electricians, a dreamlike comedy horror about a man's attempt to retain even the smallest parcel of a dignity that is forever being taken from him. Some of us may understand that. We hope to have the Kapnick Fellowship support a literature that is in contravention of the nonsense that is daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly spewed out of the American establishment's super-rated mouth. Charlie is the first note to ring out on our metaphorical bugle. Allow me to introduce you all, Charlie Clateman.
Hey everyone, thanks Micheline and thanks Jesse, and sorry I'm late. I didn't know how busy it gets on this campus, but it makes sense. This is from a book that I guess I had abandoned, but maybe depending on how you guys react, I'll take it up again. So it all depends on you. It's about a man who, with his wife, is hosting a dinner party in the country. And when we begin, he's on his way back from the city. I entered the word count of this into like a time calculator to see how long it would take to read. I didn't actually test it out, so let's see how that goes. Maybe we'll just, I might just skip some parts of it. It might not be any good, so. Okay. The train conductor, can you hear me? Yeah. The train conductor came down the aisle, once more punching holes in tickets, and I was happy that despite the recent transition to largely digital ticket systems, the hole punched card protruding from the top of the seat was still necessary to keep track of whose ticket had been checked already and keep everything functional. It made me sad that one day that sound, that semi-hollow crunch, metal through paper, would one day almost certainly be eliminated from the world. And I had often wondered, too, how many sounds have gone extinct so far, my mind venturing first and most obviously to the sound of the dinosaurs, impossible to fathom, and which I never really believed in, and continuing through to sounds far more particular. But I learned from looking at digital renderings of sound waves that sound is actually one thing, the entire blanket of sound which burbles over the universe, can be represented as a single oscillating line, whose entire texture and particular identity comes from the shape of that line. And it was this fact that made it possible for an inert piece of black vinyl to throw forth the most intricate music simply by having a needle retrace the path another needle once paved in it that was vibrated by a certain sound. Was it possible, I thought, that the exact sound wave of the hole puncher had its doppelganger in a millisecond of a completely unrelated sound hundreds of millions of years ago? The crunch of leaves underneath the foot of a subarid prehistoric bird? Likewise, was it possible that there was a sound today identical to the vocalizations of the dinosaurs? The direction we wanted to move in, I thought, was soundlessness, contactlessness. The myth of the quiet country was corroborated by very few real-life countrysides now, I had found. And I remembered the quiet of a certain city center in northern Lebanon, quieter than our little wilderness domain. No cars, no motors, only children chasing each other through narrow alleys, goats and dogs and chickens, tradesmen hammering out their famous copper pots, people talking. What a calm and pleasant sound. Poland in the summer, in a forest empty of the bugs that crazed the sonic atmosphere here at home. The world was perhaps quieter once, then suddenly, in the 19th century, very loud. Now it was still loud, but the aim was to get quieter, and once we'd cover the earth with silent machines, we would know true silence for perhaps the first time. We would one day, no doubt, communicate through telepathic messages, transcribed by brain implants, and even the human voice would get evolved out of existence. The conductor passed me without so much as a glance. The punched ticket already registered. Ours was the next stop. Having done away with the human voice, I thought as the train slowed, it was a hop and a skip from doing away with the ears, where earphones or ear implants would be necessary to transmit the telepathic codes. And why not play a little music in the meantime? Already you saw people everywhere, young and old, stuffing their sensory organs full, especially in cities and on public transit, where certain citizens, often migrants or the elderly, sometimes blasted internet videos or jewel-crushing games on their phones, a practice glaringly out of place in this city where the techniques of sharing public space amounted to something like a martial law. But people, their ears full of private sounds of their own choosing, rarely noticed these transgressions anymore. I could sing, speak, or indulge my frequent impulse to leak certain satisfying falsetto and whistle range sounds from my larynx, and nobody would bat an ear, so to speak. Tourette's was no disorder to this society, I thought, and how many other disorders were neutralized by technology. My car was waiting for me at the station, as always, unlocked, with the keys inside the car. There was no particular reason for me to do this. I could have locked it and taken the keys with me. But a certain country easiness had infected me, a place in me where the idiom safe measure actually had no meaning. Safe measure was the reason we'd left the city, Elise and I, where despite increasing reports of break-ins, rapes, stabbings, shootings, robberies, we'd never lived in anything but security. We had never been followed or assaulted and never had anything wrested from us. The worst that happened was Elise had been cornered by a group of middle schoolers who had asked her to donate to their soccer team, but when she gave them her phone for them to enter in their contact details so she could send them the sum, they sent themselves $3,000 and ran away. That was the worst of it. It could have happened technically anywhere, but it happened in the city. And in fact, it only happens in the city. For in the country, if you run away, where can you go? We knew all the children in our little town.